Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to episode 5. Yes, episode 5. We're still going of the V8ESC Backfire broadcast. Before I introduce my fellow people in the room, I'd just like to apologise. We haven't been on for a little while, but Johnny's been away. I don't know what he's been doing, agate drowning or something like that. Stig Boozin has been away at the Nürburgring. And then Johnny forgot that we do podcasts on a Sunday, so he signed up for a TCR Audi League. So we're now on our new slot, which will be every Monday evening, hopefully, after the main series on the Saturday. So with me tonight, as usual, I have the veteran Tony Trickle.
Hey, Clyde. I'm glad that all this reprogramming is not my fault.
I'm sure it is somewhere. And we also have our usual protagonist, Mr. Rowdy Brad.
Evening, and I'm sure it was your fault somehow, Tony. Just give me a couple of minutes to figure it out.
And obviously doing the magic in the background, we have Mr. Sam Boozin. And as you all know, we try not to let him speak because you can't understand him. And as he actually won a race on Saturday night, we're going to have an extra special effort not to let him talk tonight, because otherwise you won't hear the last of it. So we've got a bit of a busy evening tonight. Obviously, we've got Virginia to review, Watkins Glen from this weekend. We've got our usual put people on the spot with driver of the meeting. We've got a couple of guest drivers tonight. We've got Mr. Ryan Walker, who we're going to talk to about broadcasting and obviously being a new member to the league and how he's getting on and that sort of thing. We'll also be joined by the one and only Mr. Harold Stadler, who won his first ever Racetech Cup race this week. We'll have a preview of Belle Isle. We all know how tricky that is. Little update on the website and the scoring app. Some possible rule changes for season 8, and a little bit on our throwback week that we're planning. We'll do a bit of iRacing news, and then, as usual, at the end, if we get any questions in, which hopefully we do, get them in now. Sam will make a note of all of them so that we can give him a job to do, and we'll try and answer them for you at the end. So, now, I was obviously missing for Virginia. It happened to be my birthday, and I was away at my daughter's. We had a bit of a low turnout, but Tony and Johnny were racing. So I'll start with Tony. What was the racing like at Virginia?
A small field, unfortunately, and I think that's typical of Virginia for some reason. I don't know that a lot of people actually own the track, but it's always enjoyable to race there. Small field, but I think some really good racing, some close racing, and an interesting second race. The feature was a bit of a fuel conservation effort, and Johnny seemed to be the master of that today, or that weekend.
So, Mr. Johnny Brandon, the man that always tells me that he's crap at fuel saving. Tell turning into a bit of a fuel saving expert? Are we getting some lessons from Mike?
Not from Mike, but my hand was kind of forced, so I've had to try and force myself to learn. I think I can do it at some places more than others, but yeah, trying to make it work, and it worked for me that day. That's for sure.
So, did you guys see that Mike had actually posted a YouTube video that explained probably not everything he does, but a lot of what he does for fuel saving?
Yeah, I saw it, and a lot of good suggestions in there. And I attempted to use it, and I thought that perhaps using the draft as well would help. For myself, I needed to save 2 laps of fuel, and I ended up being a half a lap short. So, did help, just not enough.
Yeah. So obviously, Johnny and Tony both got podiums in both races. I wasn't there, so I don't really know what happened. I don't know why it was a small turnout. Maybe people were busy. Maybe it was just the track and people didn't have it. It was one that we threw into the schedule, and if it was something that people haven't got, then we'll try and keep it off the schedule in the future. But just obviously trying to keep this as brief as possible. Moving on to Watkins Glen, bumper turnout, mid-20s field, some absolutely fantastic racing, especially from my side. I had 3 really good, enjoyable races. Couple of new winners. Johnny, how was your Watkins Glen?
Yeah, it was good. Nice, like you say, that we had a good turnout for it. It's always a popular circuit, Watkins Glen. I'd have preferred the longer courses just to throw a single negative in there, but it was the short course, pretty straightforward, and just tried to stay out of trouble all night, me personally, and it seemed to work. Yeah, there was a few incidents going on, I think, which is probably quite likely at a track where the pace is so close because it's such a short lap, and what is there, 5 corners? It was, and plenty of slipstream for whatever you lose in those corners. So the field spread was very small lap time wise. So it was incredibly difficult to get past people unless there was things going on. And lucky for me, there was a few things going on in front of me as I come through the field, so that I didn't get caught in. So yeah, it went quite well for me.
Yeah, I can remember obviously doing the Sprint Series broadcast the week before. And before it, myself and Pete was saying, it's a great track. Like you say, it's very popular. And, there's going to be, because of the slipstream and things like that, there's going to be loads of overtaking, and it just didn't happen. Tony, I know you had some troubles around Watkins. I think I can remember seeing you smoking on the side of the track on at least one occasion. Considering you have got that slipstream and you've got a couple of hard braking points, what makes it so difficult to overtake around there?
Well, I think at the pointy end of the field, everybody's so evenly matched that someone actually has to make a mistake for you to get an advantage going down the straight. I know that early on in race 1, I think I got under Johnny just coming out of the S's, and I could see he had a little bit of wheel spin coming out of the top there, and that gave me a little run on him. But it's difficult. It really is. There's probably 3 spots, I think, where there's an opportunity for an overtake, and with the way the field has been recently, and I'm really happy to say this, the racing is so tight that it's just making it a lot more difficult to make those passes.
That was harder to overtake around Watkins Glen for me than it was at Virginia.
Yeah, I'd agree with
Personally.
you there. Yeah, I would agree with that.
It was, yeah, it wasn't easy. There were a couple of heavy braking spots, but to get to those braking spots within range of the person in front was really difficult. Just It was for me anyway. Like I said, I was just lucky people were making mistakes. If there wasn't a mistake, it was very difficult to get past people, unless you just really threw one on the brakes. But you just left yourself vulnerable on the exit then because the pace was so quick and close.
And I know you say you like the longer courses at Watkins, but that cut course, it does, although the overtaking is difficult, it does provide some fantastic racing. I can remember, I don't know which race it was, but going up the hill onto the back straight side by side with Tony. I think we went through probably turn one all the way up the hill until I brushed the fence on the right hand side. And looking back at the broadcast from Saturday, which I watched on Sunday morning, there just seemed to be something going on everywhere on the track all at once. And I know Marco and Sam were finding it really difficult to keep up with all the action. Tony, the action around tracks like that, do you think that equalizes the lack of opportunities for overtaking? Does the fact that people are dodging and dicing and trying everything they can to get past, do you think that makes the racing more exciting?
Absolutely, and for myself, it becomes a bit of a strategy game. Where's somebody a little bit weaker, and sometimes you have to actually spend a lap or two behind them to see where that particular point is. The turn one under braking is a good place. We had you mentioned the side by side through the S's with yourself and me. Harold Stadler and I did the same thing in another race, absolutely side by side, and we're able to pull it off. Unfortunately, in the second race, we weren't. We weren't able to do that. We each got into each other's way there, but I think it really means that we have to strategize a little bit more about where the overtaking points are. And with the field so closely bunched up, I think it made for some good TV.
And Johnny, here's a question for you then. And like you say, you said you don't really like the short course.
It's not I don't like. Alex, go on.
All I was going to say was, what do you think? Do you think the cut course would be good for one of our endurance races? Knowing that it is difficult to pass, and if the fuel window was big enough that there was multiple strategies that you could use. Do you think that would work?
If you want close racing, probably. So, well, I'll be the bad guy here and say what I think on this.
I wouldn't expect anything
The
else.
reason, yeah, the reason I don't like it is because it's easy. But that's exactly the same reason why you get good close racing. Anything technical about Watkins Glen is gone. It's just a couple of corners, and then you got that dodgy bus stop chicane that if you're prepared to take the 1Xs, is you can gain 3 temps easy. So as a fast guy trying to go around that track and not get any incursions, if somebody else is prepared to take an incursion here and there and chance it, they'll easily keep up. And there's no technical corners. So it's on that layout, which is why you get such close racing, granted. But if you're after a challenge of driving the car, I don't think there's many easier circuits than that. And that's why I prefer the longer ones.
So as the opposite of that, I'm thinking about the league and the racers in the league, and I look at race 3. The top 14 cars within 16 seconds. I can't remember a race where that's ever been as close.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
If you want good racing, that's the sort of track you want to go to because it levels the field.
Yep. Race
That's
2.
exactly my point.
Yeah. 10 cars within 9.5 seconds. And in race 1, I think we were top 10 cars within 12 seconds. So I think, to elevate the some of the mid-pack guys and get them up closer to the lead, I think that's a good thing. We need a race like that every once in a while.
Yeah, agreed.
So Race 1. Mike seemed to run away with it. Qualifying was really, really close. I think I can remember talking to Pete Bingham about you two being a thousandth of a second apart in quali.
Yeah.
So, like I say, Mike managed to run away with that race. I think Johnny came in second and George third, if I remember rightly.
Me and George had an exciting last lap.
You didn't happen to get into him, did you, Johnny?
No. I was on the inside. He just turned in like I wasn't there. So I held the apex plate tight, but nothing to do with it. You can have a chat with George and get his view of things, in fairness. But yeah.
And then
You had a little knock, didn't you, in the final corner, Tony?
I did, because the re-entry onto the track. So I went for the opportunity, and same thing happened. Two people going for the same spot.
So moving on to race 2, because I know Sam's itching for me to talk about this. Sam takes his first win in the series. From what I saw of the broadcast, once he got into the lead, he sort of stretched the gap, and then George managed to get up to third behind Ant, got past Ant, and then was chasing Sam down, and then it was something like a tenth of a second over the line. So, we've got the same old people winning the races, and then we pop up with a Sam Boozin. Now, I think that was a fantastic drive from Sam. Obviously, the big reverse grid helped. Tony, from your point of view, I know you had a pretty shit race too, but I presume you've had a chance to watch it on the broadcast, and Sam just drove it perfectly.
Yeah, I think Sam did a great job in race 2, and I got to give credit to Ant Woodward as well. Held himself really well, and probably I think Ant's maybe his best result ever. I mean, maybe once before on the podium, but really good result from him. And then in race 3 we saw another new winner, which was good to see. Harold did exceptional job there, and at the line it was 0.3 of a second to Mike. So it was good finishes for both of those races.
Yeah, and Johnny, obviously going back to race 2, we had the big reverse grid. I think you made up something like 12 places or something like that. And the racing, I'll say myself, I managed a 6th place in that race, and I had a fantastic race with Ronald Moons. Coming through the pack from a big reverse grid. On a track that as we've already spoken about, is notoriously hard to get past people. What do you do? Do you go into put your nose into places where you shouldn't really put them mode, or are you literally waiting for people to make mistakes and pouncing on them from there?
I literally did the latter there. I literally just took my time. I got 0 incursions in that second race. Just didn't touch anybody, didn't take any chances, just cruised through and took my time. So I was still pushing when I could. That was as far as I could have got, but I didn't try anything risky. Up until the final corner in race 1, I was doing the same. I had 0 incursions. And the same again in race 3. I had 0 incursions up until I think 2 laps to go, when I had was on the inside of Ryan. So just all night I just tried to be really patient and wait for mistakes, really.
Yeah, and so as Tony mentioned a little while ago, on to race 3. Harold Stadler winning his first race in the series. Now, I think we can all agree we've seen that one coming for a while, because Harold has steadily. I think he came out of the blocks fairly quick anyway, but has steadily progressed up through that top 10 to now, if things go right for him, he's definitely a top 5 runner. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had the opportunity to race closely with Harold a few times now in the last couple of weeks, and really impressed by what he's been doing and his improvement.
And Johnny, you know, with Harold, is he another driver that, you know, given maybe a bit of luck and a bit more consistency, he can be challenging the likes of yourself and Tony for, you know, an overall title at the end of one of the seasons?
Yeah, I'm sure. If he keeps going the way he's going, so he's pretty much there. Yeah, he was quick from the early days when he first started with the car, so you could tell it wasn't going to take him too long to get the hang of it. And I think with V8ESC now, he's getting to understand the car and looks to be enjoying it, and that only leads to good things, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, he'll be in for a chat in a little while. And something I'm interested to ask him is, you know, how much help he's getting from George. You know, we all know George is a very, very quick driver and a very dedicated driver, very competitive driver. I'd just be interested to know the team dynamic there. You know, whether they both go off and do their own thing, or whether they are actually working as a team. But Johnny, obviously, just back to you again. You know, you had 3 decent results. Obviously, not a race win, which you're used to, but 3 decent results on the night. So, you know, you happy with what you came away from Watkins with?
Yeah, over the moon. Not to take anything away, that was the plan, to try to stay out of trouble. And I wasn't expecting to win anything. I've probably done 2 hours practice at Watkins all week. I think I used the same setup from Virginia. I've been racing a TCR car on Sundays and Thursdays, and putting some time into that. So yeah, I was extremely pleased with that. So yeah, couldn't ask for a lot more, really.
And the same question for you, Tony. I think you ended up with a couple of 5th places, and then you had your a nightmare race as well. So obviously, I don't think you'll be happy with what you came away with. But you know, under the circumstances, did you sort of maximise what you could at the end of the night?
Yeah, well, race 1, I think I probably a couple of positions better. Race 2, you know, that first lap, S's situation put paid to that race, and it's unfortunate. It happens sometimes in, you know, real close racing. And then race 3, I was pleased from way back in the grid, 19th to come up to 5th, and I think that was an okay drive.
Good. Okay. So again, I can't talk about Virginia myself because I wasn't there, but obviously you guys feel free to pipe up with anything that of note. Driving standards and post-race bitching, as we call it, which is the technical term. Now, we've had no protests from either Virginia or from Watkins. From what I saw on the broadcasts, you know, there was a couple of bits of contact. There seemed to be a lot of net code at Watkins for some reason. But
I
nothing.
hate that net code. Where was the net code?
Terrible,
The entry to corner 7 with you and McClay and you and
There was
Ryan.
a net code. He turned in and we touched. I don't understand why people. Sam said it on the broadcast. He said, "Oh, I saw a bit of net code there. I watched it and I literally rewound it, give it the old double tap for 10 seconds back, and watched it about 6 times, and I have no clue where the net code is involved in that."
There was
That might
actually.
be a discussion for another day, but he turned in early, hit the side of my car, and went off. I don't understand what the net code
You're
is.
not looking at it from the right view there, Johnny. There was some net code there.
So the net code, what is that? That he didn't actually touch my car, or
That's correct. Yeah.
but he still turned in early, so he would have
No,
touched my car.
no, it was the net code did it.
Isn't that what netcode is, though? Netcode is iRacing predicting what's going to happen. and that's why you get a funky collision when you don't touch.
I think if you look at it from the far chase view, Johnny, you'll see that as you're going to the entrance of the corner, there's a bit of net code, and that upsets the car, and then George turns in because the car is upset.
Okay. I just thought maybe he was squeezing, staying tight, tried to turn in early to keep squeezing, and touch the side of the car. I still don't understand.
The beauty of replays.
Well, I know I had a bit with that.
Well, you should know, Johnny. You've posted enough of them.
I don't buy this netcode. I hate it. I hate it.
So anyway, question open to both of you. Feel free to jump in first. Driving standards, from my point of view, are definitely on the up. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree. Both the driving standards are up, and I think the level of tolerance for close racing is up, and hence we're not seeing the post-race bitching publicly anyway.
Johnny, from your point of view, what do you think of the driving standards? Do you think they're going up? If you don't think they are, just say it.
I think people are getting quicker, if that's what you mean by driving standards.
No. I'm more talking about
racecraft
close
and stuff.
quarters
I'm not
racing.
entirely sure. Yes and no.
Okay.
It's getting there. I don't think there's a big change. I think there's no post-race bitching because that normally only happens between me and Tony or other top guys. Has there ever been a protest filed in the league?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. It's not a common thing. I think it just depends on the day. You know, there was. Yeah, it's a whole new conversation. I'm not going to start moaning. I still think there's things that go on that shouldn't go on, but maybe it is getting better.
I think there's always room for improvement, but I personally didn't see anything too much. And also, we had another couple of new drivers, and I'll apologise now for my pronunciation, but Masiej and Miroslav. I think those guys, they handled themselves well in a new league. I don't think they have much experience of the car. I think they made if you watch race one, they made the usual mistakes that people make when they jump in this car. But on the whole, again, another couple of new drivers, which we always welcome to the league. And I think they did pretty good. Did you have any experience with them in their races, Johnny?
No, I saw them on the broadcast, and like you say, it's nice to have another new team in. A couple of drivers. The fact that I can't really think of anything bad about them, seeing as I'm in a bit of a negative mood, is a good thing. So they obviously did pretty well. Hopefully they enjoyed it, and we'll keep doing it.
And Tony, did you have any close quarters with the new guys, or was you too far ahead or too far back?
I think in one of the races,
burning in the pits.
Yeah, I think in one of the races there might have been some racing with one of the two. I honestly can't remember, but obviously, there was no complaints on my end, and didn't see any from them. It's nice to see them come to the league, and hopefully they can bring some more.
Good stuff. Right, so now I'm going to put you two guys on the spot because obviously I wasn't at Virginia, and we do like to put you under a little bit of pressure, make some friends, make some enemies, and name your driver of the meeting. So I'm going to start with you, Johnny, as you are top of the pile.
Oh God, I can't even remember Virginia.
Yeah, you can.
Let me get the results up quickly. Here we go.
One day Johnny's going to vote for Tony, and Tony's going to vote for Johnny. One Monday?
The Earth will be frozen over on that day.
I think from my memory of the results, I
I'm
think
only kidding.
you, Tony, and George all finished first, second, and third in both races.
Do you know, I'm gonna say Gary Croft.
Took the words
Purely
out of my
because
mouth.
I remember him from Watkins as well. He's made massive improvement lately. And to be fair, Greg Carr's the same. The two of them. So I'm gonna say Gary Croft. 2 steady finishes around Virginia. It's no mean feat. And yeah, he was right up there with everybody. So yeah, Gary Croft.
And Tony, I think you agree.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the very few times Johnny and I agree about anything. But yeah, Gary's
Just to make it
put
clear,
a
you're
lot.
agreeing with me here, Tony. I said it first. Okay.
Okay.
Just to
Yeah, Gary's really done well, and if he can just shake some of that bad luck he's had, I think that we would see him at the top more often.
Okay, and then obviously driver of the meeting from Watkins Glen. I'm going to go with the obvious choice and say both Sam Boozin and Harold Stadler. Tony, can you think of any reason why you would disagree with me?
None at all, Clyde, and it's strange. I'm agreeing with you as well. It was great to see those results from both of those guys. Well deserved. I think they both drove very, very good races, and under some pressure at the end. From both races, Sam had some pressure near the end there, and Harold had some pressure from Mike at the end of race 3. So good on them. Nice to see it, and hopefully that means that Sam will attend a little bit more often, and that the guys have confidence to run up at the front there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
can't disagree with anything there, Johnny.
I'll go with
You got
Sam
any?
on that one. Just big. I think you know. Respect to Harold as well for his first win, but I think it's less of a surprise for Harold. He's been knocking on the door. He's got great pace, but for Samuel to do that, he had no incursions in the race either. So it's just a perfectly clean race under pressure. He's not used to that pressure, whereas I think Harold might be a little bit more used to it with his extra pace. The Samuel was the most impressive one for me there.
Excellent. Right. So that clears up all the racing that we've had. At this point, I'm going to bring our two guest drivers in, Brian Walker and Harold Stadler. Give me a second. Oh, welcome, Ryan and Harold.
Hello.
Evening, guys.
Hello. Good evening.
Evening. So Ryan, I'm going to start with you because I'm like that. First of all, just a brief chat about your commentating. So obviously, you do a bit of work for Apex, but obviously you do a bit of racing as well. What do you enjoy the most, commentating or racing?
That's a difficult question to answer. I enjoy sim racing in general, but I would probably say I have to enjoy them both equally, just because it's on one hand I'm commentating on my favourite hobby that I enjoy doing, and then on the other hand I'm racing in my favourite hobby that I enjoy doing. So I'd probably say I enjoy doing both.
Okay, and just for anybody that can't understand Ryan, obviously Sam will be sorting out some English subtitles. And Ryan, again, we had a chat with you at the start of the season. We're almost halfway. You've done, I can't remember how many races with us now, probably half a dozen. first of all, how are you finding the league? And second question, tagged on to the end of that, how are you finding the car?
So overall I'm enjoying the league so far. I have to say the community has been really friendly, and everyone's been really helpful with me as well. And any questions that I've asked, they've always been more than happy to help me out and answer any questions I have. And just I would highly recommend the league to anyone that's thinking of joining. And regarding the car, it's taken a lot more time to get to grips with than I thought it would. But it's good fun learning the car, and the more races I do and the more practice I do, I'm starting to feel more comfortable.
So, what's your usual ride on iRacing then? Do you tend to stick to one car, or are you one of these that drives about 25 different cars in a week?
I've done some. I think the most recent series or car that I raced on iRacing was the Mazda MX-5, probably last season or the season before, where I won the UK&I championship for Division 1. So I was happy with that. But at the moment, my probably say two main series at the moment is Spec Racer Ford, and for the league stuff, I would say it's the V8 Supercar.
Excellent. So, Watkins Glen. Obviously you wasn't at Virginia, but you was there for Watkins Glen. I seem to remember one of the races you was right up front, and then you had some contact with somebody. I think Johnny's just disappeared for a minute, so we'll blame Johnny. How did Watkins go for you on the whole over the three races?
So Watkins Glen, it was one of those rounds that was a bit up and down. Race one, it was just I qualified near the back, so the aim for race one was just finish, and I managed to do that after a terrific battle with Samuel and I think it was Peter Bingham, I believe. So it was good fun that race, and then race two it just went. Race two it didn't go according to plan, so that was one to forget. But race two was probably the best or my favourite race of the evening for me. It was good. It was good fun at the start battling with the quick guys, and I was quite surprised that I managed to hold on to the lead for I think it was nearly half of the race. I think Sam said in the broadcast, so took me by surprise, but it was good fun, and it was kind of heartbreaking not to finish on the podium or finish in the top six at least. But just unfortunately what happened between me and Johnny. But that's racing, and it's just part of touring car racing. But overall, good fun.
Yeah, interesting to say you had a good battle with Pete Bingham, because normally most people finish that sentence with "until he punted me off." So at least you didn't go down that route. Tony, any questions from Ryan before we let Harold talk us through his race win?
I think Ryan's done remarkably well in the last couple of races that he's been with us, and it was really nice to see him up front there. Question for you, Ryan: when you're leading like that and Johnny's coming up behind you, what's going through your mind?
Apart from I'm going to get punted.
I was kind of asking in my mind, what do I do? Do I just let Johnny go and just tuck him behind, or with being him with a chance of finishing on the podium possibly, do I try and keep him behind as long as possible? And I thought I think there was about 2 laps remaining, I think. So I thought, I'll just try and keep him behind as long as possible and try and finish on the podium. But as I said, it was just one of those incidents that unfortunately ended in disaster. But it's one of those things, and there's always future races to try and finish on the podium or get a good result at least.
Well, you did a good job, anyways.
All right, cheers, Tony.
Johnny's just joined us again. I think he's been for food, to be honest. Johnny, any questions for Ryan before we move on to Harold?
No questions. No, just a little apology for I went up the inside. I thought he saw me. and we just slightly touched, and yeah, then I think I got hit from behind, but we had a little chat about it, and we probably both could have done things a bit differently. It was just one of them silly little incidents, but it was a shame because he did really well, and I think it won't be long before he's right up there again anyway. So look forward to the next ones.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
And just obviously for anybody that's listening or watching this back, you know, if you do have an incident with somebody, we've said it over and over again, have a chat about it. You know, both of you have a look at the replay, see what you could do better. You know, you don't always have to go into full on attack mode. It was your fault and all this sort of thing. It's good to talk. I can't remember whose slogan that was. I think it might have been BT or somebody like that. So, just moving on from Ryan for a little bit, we've got Mr. Harold Stadler, who we can now call race winner, in with us. Harold, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, hello everybody, and yeah, thank you for congratulations.
Watkins Glen. I think you had, from memory, an up and down meeting. Obviously, ended with a very big up. So let's talk about your race win. How did it go from your point of view?
Oh yeah, that was a bit difficult, as Johnny and Tony already mentioned. Overtaking is very difficult in Watkins Glen. Thankfully, I got the first one right at the start, so I moved from fourth to third at the start. And yeah, later on, sorry, I can't remember if it's Greg Carr or Gary Croft who was in second. But I already knew that if I don't get past him quickly, I won't get him normally, because he had more or less the same pace, and if he went past Ryan first, then he would have won, I'm sure. So yeah, but yeah, luckily he made a small mistake out of the last corner, and I could get him. And yeah, then it was me chasing Ryan, and he did a very good job, just staying on his line, making his thing. And I was waiting if he makes a mistake or something, but it took a very long while. Yeah, I could finally scare him a little bit, I think. I don't know if he was scared, but yeah, I was close in the second to last corner to him and went a bit to the inside just to look if I can scare him. And yeah, he went wide and I got him. So that was more or less the only chance to overtake, because yeah, the pace of Ryan and also Greg or Gary, sorry, still don't remember, was good enough to stay in front otherwise. Yeah, and at the end, yeah, I think Michael wasn't that close in the last lap. I think George was closer to Samuel in the second race. But maybe one lap more and I would have had the full pressure from Michael. But yeah, thankfully the race was over.
So, a couple of questions from me. You know, we've seen you over the past two seasons get quicker and quicker and quicker. You know, to be in a definite top five car anyway. Do you look at these reverse grids, and you know, when you're starting up there, like you say, in fourth position, do you look at it as, you know, this is my chance to get a win? And do you find that you put extra pressure on yourself because of that?
Honestly, no, I don't feel extra pressure to this. I'm quite used to it from the past. I was already in the league. It is okay, it's ages ago, but we did quite the same with reverse grids and V8 and such things. So it was more like I did know that this time it could be my chance to finally get a win, but it was also I got in this position because of this crash in race 2. So yeah, I tried my best, but as as I said before, it was difficult anyway to overtake. So I just took it as it came. Let's say it this way.
Okay, so you're in the race. We're talking about race 3. You get into the lead. What do? Do you concentrate on hitting your braking points, getting your apexes, and taking your lines? Or are you watching the relative screen to see who's coming up behind you, how quickly they're catching you? Or are you doing a bit of both?
I do both. Obviously, I try to hit my marks as usual, but on the straights, I also watch the relatives to look when the big guys come through, and and which of them comes first. So in this case, it was Taljancic. And I was like, that will be close, but I also knew. I mean, Ryan was about let's say half a second to 7/10 a lap slower than me, and I still couldn't pass him without him having an error. So I knew I was closer to Michael than Ryan was to me, so I knew there wouldn't be a chance. And Clyde, you already named me world's biggest Holden or widest Holden.
Oh, indeed, yes.
So, I don't think he would have had a big chance without me making an error. So I just concentrated on hitting my marks at the end when I saw that Michael was coming.
Okay, so in this country anyway, and I'm sure other places around the world, first win, we call that the monkey off your back. So now that you've had that win, what are you going for the rest of the season? Do you think you're still in the championship? Are you just concentrating on getting a better understanding of the car than you already have, or are you just going to see if you can pick up a few more race wins for the rest of the season?
Oh, good question. So no, I don't look at getting on the top of the championship. There are too many guys which are still faster than me. As Johnny said, this track was unique with the competition and the close racing and the close lap times. I think we get back to normal in Belle Isle. So I concentrate on keeping up my momentum I have now and try to get every time a little bit closer, at least to the guys at front. And about the race wins, I mean, the only chance I have currently is still is if I have a shot in one of the reversed grids. I don't think that I can keep up with Johnny, Tony, George, and especially Michael, who is incredibly fast with this car. And so I think P5, P6, P5, depending on who of the fast guys is on, is still what I aim for and try to be closer each time to the front.
Yeah, we don't actually think Mike's fast. It's just his hybrid V8 that he's got in there. Tony, so Harold is overall speed closing in on you guys at the top. What advice can you give to Harold to take that extra step where he's got a chance of winning races from the off and not relying on the reverse grids?
Yeah, first off, I want to say that I think Harold's being far too modest in his accomplishments. From having raced with him over the last season and a bit, I'd have to say that his pace is up there. I think it's just confidence and eyes forward when anyone's behind you. I don't pay too much attention to the guys that are behind me when I'm racing. Johnny will attest to that. And and just go for it. Harold's doing very well. I don't think he needs to rely on reverse grids to be on the podium, and I'd like to congratulate him. I think he's done really well.
Okay, and same to you, Johnny. You've mentioned Harold a few times in our podcast and how well he's doing. Any advice you can give him, apart from avoiding Netcode and Tony, to take that step up and be challenging every week for wins?
Like Tony said, I mean, I think he's right there. I think he's right there knocking on the door. Yeah, I think he's being a bit modest there. He's not far away at all. So yeah, well done for the Watkins, fully deserved, and I fully expect to see him there or thereabouts for the rest of the season, and I'm sure he will be.
Excellent. So there are our special guests tonight, Ryan and Harold. I know Pete's already asked a question, so if you guys have got any questions for Ryan or Harold, get them in, and we'll put them on the spot at the end of the broadcast. So we're going to move on to our race preview now. So we've got just under 2 weeks' time, rounds 14 and 15. Coming up from Belle Isle. Now, my memory is pretty crap, but I believe we went to Belle Isle 2 seasons ago when it was first released. And it's a bloody difficult track. Johnny, what do you remember of the last time we raced there? And what are your expectations for going there this season?
That is the last time I raced at Belle Isle, and I think my wheel failed, if I'm not mistaken, and put me into the wall.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't happen again, because I have a rather more expensive wheel nowadays. But expecting it to be tricky, maximum concentration, there's no forgiveness there at all, and it's even getting on the power too much and letting the rear step out can put you in big trouble around there if you tap one of the walls with the rear of the car, let alone the front. So yeah, maximum concentration required. Going to be an interesting one. And again, for me, I'm doing a lot of TCR racing this week, so yeah, practice I'm going to have to try and squeeze some in somewhere, because if ever there is a track that requires plenty of practice, it's Belle Isle. But looking forward to it.
Yeah, just looking at the results from season 5, it looks like Johnny won the sprint race and Jamie McKnight, good old train announcer, won the feature race. Tony, you was 9th in the sprint and 6th in the feature. So Ryan, hopefully you're still there. A, have you raced Belle Isle before? And B, will you be racing at Belle Isle with us in a fortnight's time? And C, what are your expectations for the race?
Yeah, I've done some races at Belle Isle, and I've never done a race around there in the V8, just mainly in the MX-5s when I raced them a couple of seasons ago. Yeah, and I'll be racing in 2 weeks. Yeah, all going well. That's the plan anyway. And yeah, expectations. I'm not really expecting to do anything. Would be nice to maybe get some top 10 results. So that's the aim. And if I can do that, then happy days.
Good stuff. And Tony, as we just said about the results, it looks like you had, I wouldn't call it a torrid time, but you wasn't the usual Tony Trickle. What are you going to do different this season?
Well, as Johnny mentioned, Belle Isle's very tricky. It's probably, I'm going to say, one of the top technical courses, just on applying power. So that very first sequence of turns just past the start-finish line, their little rise, left-hander. If you get on the power too much there, it's very easy to spin car out. And then the very next hard right-hander, a lot of incidents happen in that particular area as well. So we've got to learn to keep it off the walls, similar to Bathurst. I think the first order of offense at Belle Isle is to be defensive and as they say, keep it off the concrete. So it'll be a bit of a trick, practicing a lot for Bathurst this weekend for the 1000 race. And we'll have to concentrate next week on the Belle Isle setup.
Good stuff. Harold, now you wasn't with us for season 5 at Belle Isle, so similar questions to you, for you. How much practice are you likely to get in? And what do you think you can do around there? Have you ever raced around there before?
I never raced with the V8 on Belle Isle, and I remember only one race in the Skippy league race I did at Belle Isle. So it's a little bit a shame because I somehow liked that track. I think last week I did GT3 practice because I wanted to sort out some graphic issues I have with GT3s on track for some reason. And yeah, I was only 1.5 seconds off the fastest laps, and I ran Barcelona setup with full fuel. So I think this track might suit me somehow, but I have no clue how it will end up with the V8. So yeah, let's see.
I have a clue how my race will end up, but we won't go into that. So we have the sprint series coming up this Saturday, live on EC Racing TV, where I'll be commentating. So, anybody wants some race practice, you know where we are. And then a week after that, we will be there with the main series for the sprint and feature round, which I'm sure will be as exciting as it always is in our league races. So, guys, going to move on now to some league news. Not a great deal going on. Sam and Dave Jansen and myself continue to work on the new website and the scoring app, ready for next season. Sam did have a bit of a blonde moment, changed something, ruined everything, and sort of started again. But it's all progressing. We're as we've said before, we're using this season just to test things out, make sure everything is working. We've obviously we've had some preliminary discussions about the broadcast for next season. But I need to get together with the admins to talk about that a little bit more before we announce anything. Rule changes for season 8. It's that time of the year where of the season where we start looking at what we're going to do. And one thing that was decided at the start of this season, but we didn't implement it because we'd already done a race, was people team changing and stuff like that. So we're going to do a little bit around that. But One thing I'd like to just talk about for a minute is obviously Greg Carr, who does the paints for NQR, has come up with some retro NASCAR paints for the guys that they've been running for a couple of weeks. I think they look fantastic. And actually, before he done that, there was a few of us talking about how a lot of the series do a throwback week and things like that. And then we sort of decided that we would do it for our Bathurst round, as it's somewhere that we race every season. So I'm going to start at the top of the pile again with Johnny. Is that something that interests you? Is it something that you would partake in, or is it just let me get on the track and win races?
Wish it was that straightforward. I don't do the paints for the team. Generally, it's Steve Lavalley and Rich, mainly Steve. And we're only a small team, and we're all doing our own little bits of racing in different cars. Steve does some GTE racing, and obviously family commitments. Richard scattered around, does a bit of GTE, does a bit of TCR, does a bit of V8. Myself the same. We're all quite busy at the moment. Lane O'Connor never really has much time and wouldn't have a clue, and he just manages to turn the computer on. So to start doing paints, it'd be impossible. So we would be up for it, but having the time to do it is another matter. So I'm not entirely sure what we would do for that. But if that's the way it goes, then we would have to see. But yeah, it wouldn't be the easiest thing for us. Although I think it would look good, obviously, if all the cars in retro skins. But it is quite a bit of work for the guys. So it's just a case of whether they would have time to do it, which I can't speak for them, unfortunately.
Okay, so we'll just put all the pressure on Steve then and say it's all up to Steve whether you do it or not.
Yeah, if we don't know,
Ryan,
it's Steve Lavalley's fault. That's right.
yeah, well, loosely Tony's fault, obviously. Ryan, something that interests you? Is it I don't know whether you're a painter or you get somebody to do your paints, but is it something that you would take part?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I used to do. Something I used to do when I raced in the old V8 supercar mod back in the old R Factor 1 days on an old V8 supercar league that I raced. And it was definitely a popular thing. But I'm the same as Johnny. I'm not a skin painter myself, and also the skin painter from the team that I race for is normally busy with work or away with work, so doesn't really have time to paint that much. So it's kind of it would depend if my skin painter had time to do it or not. But I agree with Johnny. It's quite a lot of work.
I suppose just the other idea on that to try and keep the idea alive is that maybe Tony, trading paints. Is there a load of retro V8 skins on trading paints? And
Yes,
we could
there
just use
are.
generic ones?
Yeah, there's a lot of
That might be
retro
a way
skins there.
for people that don't have time, including us.